which stories become national stories? A pretty simple question. Why do some stories become national stories and other stories do not become national stories? And the answer, quite obviously, is the narrative. Because certain stories are national stories until they don't match the narrative, at which point they sort of fall off the radar, and other stories just stay national stories forever. So to take a perfect example.
On January 6th of 2021, the capital of the United States was attacked. There were rumors about potential Antifa or Black Lives Matter might be going there to do something. Initially, it was discussed by Ben Shapiro and other conservatives. But once it was clear that the only people doing the violence was, in fact, Trump supporters, it simply fell off the radar. And we haven't heard a thing about it since. Up until, of course, AOC said that she could have died at this event where people died. Then it was talked about for a while. AOC, AOC, AOC. This is after weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of this story being off the radar by conservative media pundits like Ben Shapiro. This Black Mirror episode, where we put a mirror in the face of Ben Shapiro, was brought to you by the Debate Me channel. Click on the subscribe button, smash that bell, and welcome aboard. Go ahead, Ben. Let me hear your example. We'll see whose example is better.
Talking about in this country was the Atlanta shooting, where a white man killed 8 people, including 6 Asian women, and the story was supposedly anti-Asian American hate. And it turned out the evidence just wasn't there to back it. We're not talking about that story anymore. Did you notice how that story just disappeared? Nobody's talking about Atlanta anymore. Meanwhile, we are...
That could be because there has been multiple shootings since then. So the mainstream media, who I'm not a fan of, have a better excuse for moving on to other big breaking news stories. What was your excuse for moving on from an attack on the Capitol of the United States? Something that historically hasn't happened in, hundreds of years? Dozens and dozens of police officers sent to the hospital. Critical condition. 2 suicides. 1 officer almost crushed to death. Another one dying later, possibly from bear spray. But let's talk about Mr. Potato Head and the Mandalorian and Dr. Seuss. Because the story, as Ben Shapiro said...
narrative. Because certain stories are national stories until they don't match the narrative, at which point they sort of fall off the radar, and other stories just stay national stories forever. So to take a perfect...
like Mr. Potato Head, like cancel culture, like Mandalorian. Right.
We're not talking about that story anymore. Did you notice how that story just disappeared? Nobody's talking about Atlanta anymore. Meanwhile, we are still talking about George Floyd, not just because the trial is going on, but because we never stop talking about George Floyd. And for those people who say, well, yes, police brutality is a bigger story than a mass shooting in Atlanta, let me just point out that it depends on the police brutality story. The case of Daniel Shaver, the young man who was shot to death by police, I believe in Arizona, a couple of years ago. He was shot to death. The video was available to everyone. He was attempting to obey police commands, and they just shot him. He was lying on the floor of like a La Quinta Inn, and they shot him in the hallway. That was not a national story. Nobody knows Daniel Shaver's name, but everybody knows George Floyd's name. What becomes a national story and stays a national story is completely up to a national news media that have decided that each story that is important because it is a data point in support of the broader narrative.
Which is exactly what Ben Shapiro does, right? He only talks about stories that supports his broader narrative, right? Attacking the left is so radical, the left, right, on left. I'm sorry. Ex-military, my bad. Let's see. Moscow Mitch's wife connection to the Communist Party. Not interested, doesn't fit the narrative. What else you got? A bunch of Trump supporters attacking the Capitol and brutalizing dozens of cops, putting them in the hospital. Not interested, doesn't meet the narrative. Matt Gaetz accused of potentially having sex with a teenager. Not interested, doesn't meet the narrative. It's probably fake news anyway. Donald Trump might have done anything at all wrong. not interested. But I might do a little hedging and say, well, Donald Trump, maybe he tweets too much, and there's some things that he's done that make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to actually discuss in detail or make a video about. But overall, he's a great guy. He's one of the best presidents we've ever had, and I love Donald Trump. I want to kiss his buttocks so much. Get a grip.
George Floyd story became a national story not because of the specific circumstances of the George Floyd story, attempting to establish reasonable doubt on behalf of Derek Chauvin. If we were talking about preponderance of the evidence, I think Chauvin, graphic video was posted to Twitter. It shows Anwar in a struggle with the suspects who then speed off and crash and flip the car with him hanging onto the side. We actually have the video available. It's tough to watch, so that is your warning. If you don't wish to watch the video, then duck out for the next 25, 30 seconds. Here's what that video sounded like. He's hanging onto the side of the car. The door crushes him as it hits a lamp post, and then the car continues to...
The door crushes him as it hits a lamp post. Are you getting that information from the same video that I'm watching? Because I didn't see anyone being crushed by a door. I think I heard the door hit something, but crushing him? I would need considerably more detail to establish whether anyone was crushed. I assume he was hit by the door, at a minimum. Crushed. Sounds like the kind of sensationalism that you'd get in CNN or MSNBC. It's interesting how people in the same business, the media, use the same tactics. Ben Shapiro, MSNBC, CNN, the Young Turks. I wonder why that is.
To speed down the street, and then it flips. You can hear it crash, the car flips. When people arrive there, the two teenage girls are attempting to get their phones. They stole the car, and they are attempting to get their phones. They don't care about the death of the man that they just murdered. They care about their phones. Now, Anwar had been working on an Uber Eats delivery Tuesday when two girls attempted to carjack him, according to a GoFundMe set up by a family.
What I want you guys to take note of, and this is something you can observe in liberal and conservative media. Ben Shapiro is taking the time to make a video about this. He's taking the time to go in detail about what exactly happened and why it's bad and how disgusting it is. The guy getting crushed by the pole, even though I didn't necessarily see anybody getting crushed, right? So he's going into that level of detail, shows you the video, talks about how callous they are to just run off and leave the guy there. They don't even care, right? This is an example of what Ben Shapiro does when he cares about something. He may care for the views and money he can make from it, or he may care from his humanity, right? Can't read his mind, so I can't tell you which one, but he clearly cares about what happened, and this is what it looks like. Ben Shapiro doesn't care about those police officers that got attacked on January 6th. He doesn't care about the officers that committed suicide. He doesn't care about the officers who lost their eyes and got, attacked with flagpoles and beat with bats, and the officer that was crying out. Because if he did, he would do what he's doing now, right? He uses as a baseline. When he cares to either profit from it or because it bothers him as a human being with feelings and compassion, this is what it looks like. Shows you the brutal video, gives you a little warning, goes into detail about it, right? Now, we had tons and tons of video from the Capitol attack. Much worse than what you just saw there, right? But for some reason, Ben Shapiro didn't show any of those clips on his channel. Didn't make any videos talking about how disgusting it is, right? He did his initial thing, right? He's not an idiot. You gotta pretend like you care. So around January 6th, 7th, everyone makes a video. Oh, this is wrong and this is not the way to do it. And then now that you've covered your ass, then you go run and hide and ignore all the news that comes out, all the stories that come out, all the video clips that come out. Let's just pretend like we don't see it because it doesn't fit the narrative, so it just falls off. Funny how that works. So in this country, the United States of America, we have liberal media who makes videos calling out the partisanship and propaganda of right-wing media, accurately pointing out some serious problems with conservative media. Meanwhile, doing their own version of the exact same stuff they're pointing out. And then we have conservative media who does the same thing, points out how partisan liberal media is and how they, don't cover things that don't meet the narrative. Like, for example, the Chicago ambush that I covered, right? Didn't fit the narrative, so it was not covered. It didn't go national. It stayed local. Exactly the kind of thing Shapiro is pointing out here. That's what liberal media does, while pointing out conservative media for doing the same thing. And here we are watching conservative media, Ben Shapiro, pointing out another example of liberal media doing exactly what Ben Shapiro does. But of course, he doesn't put that part in there. That's the same tactic that he uses because he's in the same business. He makes his money the same way, from pandering to his audience, from playing with their emotions. What sells for his channel is the left. The left is so evil. Look what they do. And the liberal media, blah, blah, blah. Not that it's lies. Not that it's lies at all. But the whole thing is, he knows he's got an audience that is sensitive to this stuff. They've been fed this whole left is evil. And if you put out a left is evil video, you're going to get views. And your audience is going to sit there and they're all going to nod their heads in unison. And yes, yes, the left, the left, the left, the left, left. All right? Echo chamber. Right? That's the same reason why MSNBC has a clown like Shapiro on their channel. Because they know they have an audience that is sensitive to racial issues, same way that Shapiro's audience is sensitive to cancel culture and, ooh, look at what the left is doing, right? Both of these sides of our media knows that their audience has these buttons to push, right? So you put out content about a certain topic, whether it's true or not, right? And you keep putting out that same topic and not covering other topics, you can make a lot of money. Right, because they love you. They love you validating their beliefs. They love you validating their ideology. You're a liberal. You watch liberal media. Makes you feel like you're the good guys. You're the smart ones. You're doing the right way. Not like those evil conservatives. You're a conservative. You watch conservative media, and they feed you like you're a little child. Oh, yes, the left is evil. Left is evil. Let's not talk about the right. We're the good guys, unlike those evil leftists. Radical left. Bullshit. This is the Baby Channel. Debate in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Shout out to my subscribers. Thanks for all the support and all the love. Micro update. Things are going really great with the new gig. Very, very challenging, which is why I haven't been posting as much as I have in the past. I've not given up on you guys. Just bear with me. I have to study to get a license to do what I do. And like I said, very, very challenging. You can imagine I'm getting my master's degree. It's that kind of a thing. A lot of studying, a lot of learning, big challenges. But at the other end of this road are great things, not just for me, but for this channel and therefore for you guys that enjoy the content. See you soon.
3 weeks ago, all we were talking